My name is Tori Afton. I'm 29 years old, and this is the story of the day my boss told me I wasn't ready. So I showed him exactly what ready looks like. I want you to imagine waking up at 5 a.m. every single day for 3 years. Not because you have to, but because you love what you do. I loved the hum of the computers in the data center. I loved the smell of fresh coffee at 6:30 a.m. when the office was still silent. I loved the feeling of solving a problem that made the company $20,000 in a single afternoon. My name is Tori, and I was the Senior Operations Analyst at Apex Financial Group. At least that was my title. But if you looked at my actual workload, I was the Operations Manager. I was the IT department. I was the trainer. And most of the time, I was the janitor who cleaned up the messes that everyone else made. For 3 years, I did the job of 3 people. My boss, a man named Derek, knew this. He saw me stay until 9 p.m. He saw me cancel vacations. He saw me cry in the supply closet once when a server crashed, only to come out 5 minutes later with a smile and a solution. And every 6 months, I would ask for a promotion. Not a raise, mind you, just the title, just the respect. I wanted to be the operations manager. I wanted the corner desk. I wanted the authority to actually make decisions without having to run to Derek for a signature on every single thing. The first time I asked, Derek laughed. He said, "Tori, you're young. You need more experience." The second time, he sighed. "Tori, let's revisit this at the end of the year." The third time, that was the time that broke me. But also, that was the time that set me free. It was a Tuesday. I remember the rain was hitting the window in that specific way that makes you feel sleepy. I had just finished a report that saved the company from a massive compliance fine. I was glowing. I walked into Derek's office. He had his feet up on his desk. He was looking at golf videos on his phone. I placed the report on his desk. "Derek, we need to talk." He didn't look up. "Make it quick, Tori. I have a meeting." "I want the operations manager position," I said. "I have been doing the job for 14 months. The current manager quit 6 months ago, and you haven't even posted the listing. I am holding this department together with duct tape and caffeine. Give me the title." Derek finally put his phone down. He looked at me, not like a colleague, not like a mentor. He looked at me like I was a piece of gum on his shoe. "You're not ready for a promotion," he said. I blinked. I actually thought I misheard him. "Excuse me?" "You heard me, Tori. You're good at the technical stuff, sure, but a manager? You don't have the presence. You don't command a room. People don't respect you. They just like you because you do their work for them. That's different." My hands started to shake. "I saved us $200,000 last quarter, Derek." "That's your job," he shrugged. "I trained the new hires." "That's your job." "I wrote the disaster recovery plan that you presented to the board and took credit for." He stood up. He got very close to me. He was a tall man, and he knew how to use his height. "Watch your tone, Tori, or you might find that doing your job isn't required anymore." I walked out of that office. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I walked to my desk, sat down, and I looked at my computer screen. And for the first time in 3 years, I stopped being a hero. I stopped being the fixer. I decided right then that I would do exactly what my job required. Nothing more, nothing less. And Derek had no idea what that actually meant. Have you ever read your job description? I mean, really read it? Most people sign it on their first day and throw it in a drawer. But that night, I went home and I dug out my original contract from 3 years ago. It was 15 pages of legalese, boring, dry, corporate nonsense. But I read every single word. My official title was Senior Operations Analyst. My required duties were listed in paragraph 4, subsection B. It said, "Monitor daily transaction logs, report anomalies to management, maintain data integrity." That was it. 3 bullet points. There was nothing in there about training other people, nothing about fixing the broken printers, nothing about staying late to cover for the night shift, nothing about answering emails on Sunday morning, nothing about building the quarterly presentations. I realized something terrifying. For 3 years, I had been giving Derek my soul, and he had been paying me for a skeleton. The next morning, I walked into the office at exactly 9 a.m. Not 8, not 7:30, 9 a.m. I sat down, I opened my logs, and I stared at them. I did not touch the overflowing inbox of questions from the sales team. I did not answer the phone when the IT guy called for the 5th time. At 10 a.m., Derek stormed over to my desk. He was red in the face. "Tori, the Martinez account is down. Why haven't you fixed the routing error?" I looked up at him, perfectly calm. "That's not my job." He laughed nervously. "What?" "Fixing routing errors is a level 3 task. I am a level 2 analyst. According to the workflow chart you signed last year, that issue belongs to the operations manager. But we don't have one, do we? Because you haven't hired one." Derek leaned down. "Tori, fix the damn error." "I can't," I said. "If I fix it, I am working outside my pay grade. That's a liability for the company. If I make a mistake on a task I'm not authorized to do, the insurance won't cover it. I'm just protecting the company, Derek." He was speechless. For a full 5 seconds, he just stared at me. Then he pointed a finger at my face. "You're playing a dangerous game." "I'm doing my job," I smiled. "Exactly my job." Over the next 2 weeks, I became a ghost. Or rather, I became a robot. I did my 3 bullet points perfectly, flawlessly. The transaction logs were immaculate. But everything else, the grease that kept the wheels turning, I let it grind to a halt. The printers ran out of paper. Normally, I would refill them. I didn't. The coffee machine broke. Normally, I would call the repair guy. I didn't. A junior analyst named Kevin didn't know how to run a pivot table. Normally, I would spend an hour teaching him. I didn't. The server backup failed at 2 a.m. Normally, I would wake up and fix it remotely. I didn't. The chaos was beautiful. And the best part? Nobody could blame me because I was doing my job perfectly. Derek started sending me angry emails. "Why isn't the report formatted?" I replied, "Formatting is not in my job description. I provide raw data." "Why is the supply closet empty?" I replied, "Inventory management is the responsibility of the administrative coordinator. That is not me." He tried to write me up. He called me into HR. The HR lady, a woman named Carol, who usually just nodded along with whatever Derek said, looked at my contract. She looked at Derek. She looked back at the contract. "She's not wrong, Derek," Carol said quietly. "She's doing exactly what she was hired to do." Derek slammed his fist on the table. "This is insubordination." "This is compliance," I corrected him. "You told me I wasn't ready for more responsibility, so I stopped taking responsibility. You got exactly what you asked for, Derek. A worker who does the bare minimum." I walked out of that HR meeting feeling like a queen. But I knew Derek wasn't going to take this lying down. He was a snake, and snakes bite when they feel cornered. I just didn't realize how low he was willing to go. Section 3. The Setup. 3 weeks into my exactly my job era, things at Apex Financial were falling apart. Clients were complaining. The CEO, a woman named Margaret, who I had only spoken to twice, sent out a company-wide email asking why the operations department was missing deadlines. Derek was sweating. I could see it every morning. His expensive suits looked wrinkled. His hair was messy. He wasn't watching golf videos anymore. He was panicking. But instead of admitting that he needed me, instead of offering me that promotion, he decided to destroy me. It started small. I came into work one day and my access card didn't work. I had to buzz security to let me in. Security looked at me like I was a criminal. Derek had submitted a request to review my access privileges. Then my computer password stopped working. I had to go to IT to reset it. The IT guy, a friend of mine named Sam, whispered to me, "Tori, Derek is asking for your login history. He's looking for something to fire you for." "I won't find anything," I said, because I knew I was clean. But Derek was smart. He wasn't going to catch me breaking a rule. He was going to invent a rule I broke. It happened on a Friday. I got an email at 4:45 p.m. The subject line was Urgent, Client Data Breach. My heart stopped. A data breach is the worst thing that can happen in finance. It means lawsuits. It means the end of careers. I opened the email. It was from Derek. He was CCing the entire executive board. The email said, "It has come to my attention that Tori Afton accessed confidential client files for the Martinez account on 3 separate occasions last month. This was without authorization. This is a direct violation of our privacy policy. I have no choice but to recommend immediate termination and legal action." I stared at the screen. My blood turned to ice water. The Martinez account. That was the account I had saved. The routing error? He was claiming that by fixing the error he told me to fix, I had breached security. I jumped up and ran to Derek's office. He was packing his briefcase. He was smiling. "You're lying," I said. "You authorized that access. You told me to fix the routing error." Derek looked at me with pure, cold victory in his eyes. "Prove it." My mouth went dry. Prove it? How could I prove it? He had told me verbally, in the hallway. There was no email, no paper trail. It was my word against his, and he was the boss. "You're firing me for doing what you asked?" I whispered. "I'm firing you for breaking the rules," he said. "And Tori, don't bother fighting it. I have the logs. I have the timestamps. You accessed a file you had no business touching. HR will side with me. The law will side with me." He walked past me. He patted me on the shoulder like I was a dog. "You should have just refilled the printer paper, sweetheart." I stood there in the empty hallway. The lights flickered. The cleaning crew was coming in. I felt the floor drop out from under me. I was going to be fired, blacklisted, sued, maybe. But as I walked back to my desk to pack my things, I noticed something. The server room door was open. Sam, the IT guy, was in there. He looked at me. He saw the tears in my eyes. "I know," he said. I heard. "He's going to win, Sam." Sam shook his head. He pointed to the server rack. "No, he's not, because Derek forgot one thing." "What?" "He forgot that you're the one who built the logging system, and I'm the one who controls the backups." Sam pulled up a screen. He showed me a secondary log, a hidden backup that Derek didn't know existed. It recorded every verbal command given in the hallway. Well, not the words, but it recorded the exact second that Derek's access card scanned the Martinez file, followed immediately by my access card scanning the same file. It wasn't audio, but it was a timeline that proved I could not have accessed that file unless Derek had unlocked it first. "You have 30 minutes before the system overwrites this," Sam said. "Download it. Take it to a lawyer." I didn't pack my box of desk toys. I didn't cry. I downloaded the data onto a USB drive, I slipped it into my sock, and I walked out of Apex Financial for the last time as an employee. But I knew I would be back, not as Tori the fixer, as Tori the reckoning. The weekend after I was fired was the longest weekend of my life. I didn't sleep. I sat in my tiny apartment with the blinds closed. I had the USB drive sitting on my kitchen table like a loaded gun. I called a lawyer. Not a corporate lawyer, I called a bulldog, a woman named Helen who had a reputation for chewing up HR departments for breakfast. Helen looked at my evidence. She looked at Derek's email. She looked at the hidden logs. This is constructive dismissal, and this is defamation, and this is retaliation. Tori, they didn't just fire you, they tried to brand you a criminal. "Can we win?" I asked. Helen leaned back. "We can do more than win. We can burn the building down, but you have to be patient." I hated patience. I wanted to walk into the office on Monday and scream at Derek. I wanted to throw the USB drive at his face. But Helen stopped me. "No," she said, "we don't warn the enemy. We let him dig his own grave." So I waited. Meanwhile, at Apex Financial, things got worse without me. Much worse. Sam kept me updated via text. Monday. The transaction logs failed because nobody knew the password to the master sheet. I was the only one who knew it. Tuesday, a client threatened to sue because their wire transfer was lost. Nobody knew how to trace it because I usually did that manually. Wednesday, the entire server crashed. Not a small crash, a blackout. 3 hours of downtime. In finance, that's millions of dollars. Derek was telling everyone it was my fault. Tori sabotaged the systems before she left, he said. But that was his mistake, because accusing me of sabotage, that required proof. And when the forensic IT team came in to look for Tori's sabotage, they didn't find sabotage. They found negligence. Derek's negligence. They found that Derek had ignored my monthly reports warning about the server capacity for 6 months. They found that Derek had deleted my training manuals because he didn't like the font. They found that Derek had been charging his personal vacations to the corporate card. The noose was tightening, but Derek still thought he was safe. He thought he was untouchable. He sent me one text message that Friday night. It just said, "How does unemployment feel?" I didn't reply, but I saved the screenshot. Everything was evidence now. Helen called me that night. The labor board hearing is set for next Thursday. Wear something nice, but not too nice. We want them to see you as the victim, not the victor. Not yet. What's the plan? I asked. Helen's voice was cold, calculated. We are going to walk into that room. You are going to present the evidence of the setup. Derek is going to panic. He is going to lie under oath. And then we drop the hidden logs. We show that he accessed the file first. We prove he is the liar. But that's just the beginning, Tori. What do you mean? Because once we prove he lied to fire you, his entire career becomes a question mark. Every deal he ever signed, every report he ever submitted, it all becomes suspect. The board will have no choice but to clean house. And you get your job back. Or you get a settlement so big you never have to work again. I looked at the USB drive. I don't want the money, Helen. What do you want? I want his chair. The labor board hearing was held in a gray, beige room that smelled like old coffee and desperation. There were 3 people on the panel, 2 men, 1 woman. They looked bored. They had seen 1,000 cases like this. Angry employee versus smug boss. Derek walked in wearing a blue suit that probably cost more than my car. He had a lawyer with him, a slick guy with white teeth and a watch that looked heavy. Derek didn't look at me. He looked through me, like I was already garbage. My lawyer, Helen, sat next to me. She wore a plain black dress, no jewelry. She looked like a librarian. That was her secret weapon. Everyone underestimated her. The panel opened the proceedings. Miss Afton, you are seeking reinstatement and damages for wrongful termination. Mr. Vance claims you accessed confidential files without authorization. Please state your case. Derek's lawyer went first. He stood up. He put on a pair of reading glasses. He looked serious. Your Honors, this is a clear-cut case of an employee who overstepped her bounds. Miss Afton was a low-level analyst who decided she knew better than management. She accessed the Martinez account, a high-profile client, without permission. When caught, she became hostile. She stopped performing her basic duties. She created a hostile work environment. My client had no choice but to let her go. Derek nodded solemnly, like he was a hero. Then Helen stood up. She didn't shout, she didn't gesture, she just opened a folder. Your Honors, Helen said, my client did access the Martinez account. That is a fact. But the question is why, and the question is who told her to do it. She played a video. It wasn't a video of Derek. It was a screen recording of the server logs, the hidden logs that Sam had saved. This timestamp, Helen pointed, shows Derek Vance's access card entering the Martinez file at 3:02 p.m. 30 seconds later, Tori Afton's card enters the same file. 30 seconds. That is not enough time for her to break in. That is the amount of time it takes for walk from Derek's office to her desk after he gives her an order. Derek shifted in his seat. His lawyer whispered something in his ear. Furthermore, Helen continued, here is the email chain from that day. Derek Vance wrote to Tori Afton, fix the routing error on Martinez now. He gave her the order. In writing. He just forgot he wrote it. My heart stopped. Email? What email? I looked at Helen. She winked at me. She had found an email in the server backups that Derek had tried to delete. But deleting an email doesn't delete it from the disaster recovery tape, and I had trained the IT team on disaster recovery. Derek's face went white, not pale, white, like a ghost. That email was taken out of context, Derek stammered. Was it? Helen asked. Because it says fix the routing error. It doesn't say hack the system. It says fix it. You ordered her to do her job. Then you fired her for doing it. The panel looked at Derek. The woman on the panel, a stern lady with glasses, spoke. Mr. Vance, did you or did you not order Miss Afton to access that file?
Derek looked at his lawyer. His lawyer shook his head. Don't answer. But Derek was too proud, too arrogant. I did, but she should have known better. She should have asked for written permission. She's a liability. The room went silent. He had just admitted it, on the record. Helen sat down. She didn't need to say another word. The panel deliberated for 10 minutes. 10 minutes where Derek wouldn't look at me. 10 minutes where I stared at the back of his head and imagined him sweating through that expensive suit. They came back. The board finds in favor of Miss Afton. Termination was wrongful. Apex Financial is ordered to reinstate Miss Afton with back pay for all lost wages plus legal fees. Furthermore, we are referring Mr. Vance's conduct to the Corporate Ethics Committee for review. Derek slammed his briefcase shut. He stormed out, but I caught his eye as he left. See you Monday, boss, I said. He didn't reply, but I knew. I knew this wasn't over, because Derek wasn't the type to lose gracefully. He was the type to burn everything down on his way out, and I was ready for him. Walking back into Apex Financial on Monday morning was one of the strangest experiences of my life. It was the same building, the same elevator, the same beige cubicles, but everything felt different. The air felt different. I wasn't Tori the fixer anymore. I was Tori the survivor, and everyone knew it. The whispers started immediately. Did you hear? She sued them. Derek is on probation. She's got balls of steel. I walked past my old desk. Someone else was sitting there, a young kid named Marcus. He looked terrified when he saw me. Miss Afton, I didn't know. Relax, Marcus, I said. I'm not here for that desk. I walked straight to the corner office, the operations manager's office, the one Derek had been keeping warm for himself, even though he wasn't qualified for it. The door was closed. I knocked. Come in, Derek said. His voice was tired. I opened the door. Derek was sitting behind the desk, but he looked small, deflated. The big boss act was gone. The HR said you're moving your stuff into the bullpen. They're giving me this office. Derek didn't look up. You think you won, Tori? I think justice was served. He laughed, a bitter, ugly laugh. Justice? You're a joke. You think the board respects you? You think Margaret, the CEO, likes you? You embarrassed them. You made them look stupid. You have a target on your back the size of this building. He stood up. He grabbed a cardboard box of his things, a picture of his kids, a golf trophy, a stupid world's best boss mug. As he walked past me, he stopped. He leaned in close. Watch your back, Tori. You might have won the battle, but I know where the bodies are buried in this company, and I'm not going down alone. He left. I sat down in the big leather chair. It was still warm from his body. I should have felt victorious. I should have felt happy. But I felt cold, because I knew Derek was right about one thing. The board didn't like me. They didn't like that a lowly analyst had exposed their golden boy. They didn't like that I had made waves. And I realized that getting the chair wasn't the end of the war. It was just the beginning of a much darker one. Section 7. The Conspiracy. For the first month in my new role, I tried to play nice. I tried to be the bigger person. I rehired the staff Derek had fired. I fixed the server issues. I got the Martinez account back on track. I did everything right. But the board was icing me out. They stopped inviting me to executive meetings. They forgot to copy me on important emails. The CEO, Margaret, looked at me like I was a fungus growing on her perfect carpet. I was the operations manager in title only. In reality, I had no budget, no authority, no respect. One night, I was working late, around 8 p.m. Everyone had gone home. I was reviewing the quarterly financials because something felt off. The numbers weren't adding up. Expenses were too high, revenue was too low, but nobody was talking about it. I dug deeper. I pulled up the files from before I was fired. And that's when I found it. Derek had been embezzling money. Not a little bit, a lot. He had set up a fake vendor account, Apex Logistics Solutions. It was a shell company. Every month, Apex Financial would pay Apex Logistics $50,000 for IT consulting. But there was no IT consulting. The money was going into an offshore account, an account that Derek controlled. But here's the kicker. When I traced the approval signatures for those payments, they weren't just Derek's. They were Margaret's, the CEO. Margaret knew. She had been signing off on the fake invoices for 2 years. Derek wasn't the only snake. He was just the loud one. Margaret was the quiet one, the one who stayed in the shadows. I sat back in my chair. My hands were shaking. If I exposed this, I wouldn't just be firing Derek. I would be bringing down the CEO. I would be destroying the entire executive board. And they would destroy me back. They would ruin me. They would claim I falsified the documents. They would bury me so deep I would never work again. But if I did nothing, I was complicit. I was watching a crime happen. I thought about what Derek said. I know where the bodies are buried. He wasn't threatening me. He was telling me the truth. He was giving me a map. The question was, did I have the courage to dig? I made a copy of the files. I hid them in 3 different locations, my apartment, a safety deposit box, and I mailed a physical copy to Helen, my lawyer, with instructions to open it only if I went missing.
Then I waited. I watched. I let Derek and Margaret think I was just a naive manager who was happy to have a chair. But I was building a case that would either make me a hero or get me killed. Not physically killed, but professionally murdered. And I knew that if I was going to pull the trigger, I had to do it perfectly. 1 shot, 1 kill, no mistakes. I decided to set a trap. Not for Derek, for Margaret. Derek was loud and messy. Margaret was quiet and clean. If I went after Derek again, Margaret would just cut him loose and hide the money. I needed to catch the fish, not the bait. So I went to Margaret's office. I put on my best suit. I smiled. I played the role of the grateful employee. "Margaret," I said, "I want to apologize for the mess with Derek. I was young. I was emotional. I see now that I handled it wrong." Margaret looked at me over her reading glasses. She was a hawk. She didn't trust me, but she was curious. "Go on." "I want to prove myself," I said. "I know Derek was involved in some questionable vendors. I want to help clean up the books. I want to find the waste and cut it out, for the good of the company." Margaret smiled. It was a predator's smile. "You want to help me?" "Yes." "Then do this. I want you to audit the Apex Logistics account. Derek set it up. I've always been suspicious of it. Find the proof that Derek is stealing and bring it to me. We'll fire him together. Permanently." She was handing me Derek on a silver platter, but she didn't realize I already knew she was the one signing the checks. She wanted me to be her weapon. She wanted me to do the dirty work of exposing Derek so she could play the innocent CEO who was shocked by the betrayal. I played along. "I'll get you the proof by Friday." "Good girl," she said. I walked out of her office. I went to my desk. I didn't look for proof on Derek. I already had it.
Instead, I called the FBI. Yes, the FBI. Because embezzlement across state lines? That's a federal crime, and I had the evidence. I met with an agent named Cooper in a parking garage, like a spy movie. I gave him the USB drive. I showed him the chain of signatures. Derek's, Margaret's, the offshore accounts. Agent Cooper looked at me. Do you understand what you're doing? You're going to destroy this company. No, I said. Derek and Margaret destroyed it. I'm just calling the ambulance. It's going to take a few weeks to build the case. Don't tip them off. Keep working. Keep smiling. I went back to the office. I pretended to audit Derek. Derek thought I was trying to frame him. He confronted me in the break room. You think you can take me down, Tori? I have friends in high places. I know you do, Derek, I said, pouring a cup of coffee. I've met them. He didn't understand what I meant, but he would, soon. The raid happened on a Wednesday. I was in a meeting with the marketing team talking about font sizes on a brochure. Boring, normal stuff. Then the doors burst open. Men in dark jackets. FBI. Police. They didn't have guns drawn, but they might as well have. Derek Vance, Margaret Holloway, you are under arrest for fraud, embezzlement, and money laundering. Margaret screamed. She actually screamed. This is a mistake. I'm the CEO. Derek just looked at me, across the room, through the glass walls of the conference room. He knew. He knew I had done this. He mouthed one word. Why? I didn't answer. I just watched as they put the handcuffs on him, on her, on 3 other executives who had been taking kickbacks. The office was chaos. People were crying, people were cheering, people were deleting files off their computers in a panic. I sat perfectly still. I didn't cheer, I didn't cry. I just felt empty. And then, slowly, I felt peace. The board of directors was arrested or resigned. The company went into receivership. A new CEO was brought in from outside, someone clean, someone who didn't know me. And they looked at the wreckage, and they looked at me, the only senior manager who wasn't in jail. Miss Afton, the new CEO said, you saved this company. You exposed a cancer. We want you to be the new chief operating officer. I looked at the corner office, the one Derek had wanted, the one Margaret had guarded. No, I said. He blinked. No? I don't want the corner office. I want something else. What? I want a guarantee, in writing, that every single person who looked the other way while Derek and Margaret stole from this company is fired. No golden parachutes, no severance. And I want a whistleblower fund set up for any employee who sees something wrong in the future. The new CEO agreed. He had no choice. The company was bleeding. They needed me. I took the COO job, not because I wanted power, but because I wanted to make sure this never happened again, to anyone.
It's been 2 years since that day. Derek is serving 6 years in federal prison. Margaret is serving 8. She tried to blame everything on Derek, but the signatures don't lie. I still work at Apex Financial, but it's a different place now. We have ethics trainings. We have open books. We have a culture of see something, say something. And me? I'm not the fixer anymore. I'm the builder. I think back to that day in Derek's office when he said, "You're not ready for a promotion." He was wrong, but he was also right. I wasn't ready for his promotion. I wasn't ready to play his game. I wasn't ready to climb his ladder. Because his ladder was built on lies, on theft, on hurting people. I had to build my own ladder, and it took getting fired. It took being betrayed. It took almost losing everything to realize that the only person who can validate your worth is you. If you are watching this and you are in a job where you are doing the work of 3 people and someone tells you that you aren't ready, listen to them. Not because they are right, but because they just told you everything you need to know about who they are. And then, do exactly what your job requires. Nothing more, nothing less. Let the system break. Let the chaos come. Because sometimes the only way to win is to stop carrying the weight that was never yours to carry in the first place. My name is Tori Afton. I'm 31 years old, and this was the story of the day I stopped being a hero for people who didn't deserve me.